Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. Lance and I are certainly glad that you are tuning in again this week to listen to our podcast on Alabama football. I want to remind each and every one of you that Lance on all the home games does a great job of taking some wonderful photographs, great pictures, and they're up on his website at freelancepictures.com, rolltidebama.com. Go there and download those pictures. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the $1 Million Band parents and the cheerleader parents and some of the football parents. They're getting those and enjoying that. So I want to thank Lance for always going to the home games and covering them so well with some great photos. So here's your chance to go and take a look at all those pictures at freelancepictures.com and rolltidebama.com. Well, here today on the podcast, in the first segment, we're going to review the recent game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. In our second segment, we're going to name our players of the game at Vanderbilt. In our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming road game against the Arkansas Razorbacks. You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at tide100.9.com. Well, here in the first segment, glad to have everybody back with us where we're going to review the game against Vanderbilt. Well, I said to a couple of people right after the game that I thought this was Alabama's best overall performance on both sides of the ball. I'm sure Coach Saban will be able to pick apart some things and to go through film and talk about the negatives in order for improvement to take place, but really came away from Vanderbilt with a big victory, 55-3. Vanderbilt did not get in the end zone, did not score a touchdown. They just had one field goal. I had predicted 63-17, but 55-3 is a great victory, I think, overall. And how we did it was impressive to me. It was our first SEC game at home, opening against the Vanderbilt Commodores. They come in with a really improved team, thought they had a really good game plan to try to come into Bryant-Denny Stadium and play their style of ball. I think Clark Lee has got them playing better this year. But Alabama came out, and I felt like in the game established themselves on offense to take what the defense gave them. And I think that at first they were giving a lot of passes, and we really opened up the passing game in the first half. We hit some of our wide receivers. It looked like we had put Jermaine Burton, Ja'Cory Brooks, and Trayshawn Holden in the out routes in order to get open against those cover 3 defense that Vanderbilt was running. And so it looked to me like that we were showcasing some of our route running and speed on those plays. And Bryce Young obviously knew exactly who to get the ball to. He got it to the right person at the right time. We had a really good passing yards, over 400 passing yards in this game. We had total yards of 628, and our rushing yards that really came on in the second half, 228 yards, which you want to do that in order to take the air out of the ball and kind of run the ball some. And we did a good job of doing that in the second half. I think overall I was impressed with our team offensively. We took what the defense gave us. I think we did a good job of not having any interceptions. There were no interceptions this game. We had one turnover, but it wasn't by the offense. It was on a special teams. We had one fumble. But all in all, I think a pretty good play on offense. The only thing I will say is there were some penalties by the offensive line. I thought our offensive line play was better. I thought we were better when Tyler Booker was in there. Really established ourselves in the running game more when Tyler Booker was in there, and we used Randolph as an extra blocker. But I think our offensive line had some penalties. We had some penalties. We were holding penalties. I believe we need to clean up those penalties before we move on to our road game against Arkansas. But overall, I thought the offense did a really good job. And on the defensive side of the ball against Vandy, what can you say? We broke out, finally got to see that package called the Cheetah package, where you have 3 rushers on the field at the same time in stand-up positions. You had Will Anderson Jr., Dallas Turner, and Chris Braswell all rushing the quarterback on several occasions. They call it the Cheetah package. I think we broke it out at just the right time. I think you'll see that next week against Arkansas as well. But that allowed us to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And they tried to get the ball out fast, but we still were able to pressure the quarterback in some of those throws that it was tough to make. So had a great job on. They only had 115 total passing yards for the game. In this game, their young quarterback, was pressured all day, and it was really running for his life a lot of times. But our defensive line played a whale of a game. I don't know if you noticed it, but Jaheim Otis got the start again, freshman, and he is really making himself known on the defensive line. There were several plays where they tried to double team him, and he shed both blockers and still made the run defensive stop before the back could even get to the line of scrimmage. And it showed in the stats they only had 14 yards rushing. Now I know they lost some yards on all the sacks that they had, but they only had 14 yards rushing, and a lot of that had to do with our defensive line play. Byron Young, who got dinged up in the game, played really well. Justin Eboigbe played really well, and Jaheim Otis and DJ Dale really played well in this game. So overall, our defensive line played great. We had some great play out of our linebackers. Henry To'oto'o played really well. Jalen Moody, Deontay Lawson. Great play out of our linebackers on the run support and also on coverage on the tight ends across the middle. And then our defensive backs. I believe Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry had the better days here. I think Eli Ricks had a couple of penalties, maybe still hadn't really gotten to the point of getting into the swing of things. Maybe he'll come on later on, but he's there for experience if we need. But I really think Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to be our starting cornerbacks in the games as we go forward. But Brian Branch, Malachi Moore all contributed on defense in this game. So overall, the defense played so well, holding them to 129 yards, only 14 yards rushing, and being able to establish the pressure with that new cheetah package. I look forward to seeing what this defense can do down the road. So overall, a really good game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Come away with a victory, 55-3. Offense was good, defense was great. Look forward as we move on to the next game. Well, here in the second segment, we're going to take a look at our players of the game against Vanderbilt. Players of the game. Let's start on offense, and I think this game starts with Bryce Young. Bryce Young had a stellar day, 25 of 36 for 385 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. He didn't run the ball much in this game, didn't need to, but his arm was really good in this game. Hit a lot of our wide receivers, and he distributed the ball to multiple receivers in this game. With all across the board, getting the ball out to our wideouts. And I think that really had a good game plan, putting their wideouts in positions to make plays. And Bryce Young taking what the defense gave him early on in the game. They were trying to take away the run and giving opportunities for us to hit in those holes and those cover 3, cover 2 defenses they were running. And we he did a good job of hitting that wide open receivers as they were between the zone coverage. So Bryce Young is one of my offensive players of the game. My other offensive player of the game is Ja'Cory Brooks, number 7. We saw him have a breakout game last year against Auburn. Then he kind of went away after that in some of the later games, and he really hadn't made his presence known so far this year. But he really did a good job here, catching 6 balls for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Ja'Cory Brooks really did a good job in this game, and he is my other offensive player of the game. My defensive player of the game, I want to talk about first linebacker Henry To'oto'o. Henry To'oto'o, I think in this game he really showed himself his strength of tackling. He had 4 tackles and 2 assists. He's in on multiple plays. He pressured the quarterback several times in conjunction with the outside rushers. So he covered the tight end and the running back on drag plays across the middle. And Henry To'oto'o, in my opinion, is the cog in that middle that calls the plays, gets us in the right defenses at times, and really does a great job. So he is my other defensive player in the game. My other defensive player of the game is a person that Coach Saban says we need to talk about every week, and it seems like I have talked about him just about every week. But Will Anderson Jr. had a massive game. 3 tackles, 2 assists, and 2.5 sacks. 2.5 sacks. He was in the backfield faster in this game than he has been in other games. It was very easy to see that this cheetah defensive package that they run, where Will Anderson Jr. and Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell are in the game at the same time as stand-up rushers. I think what we saw this did was it allowed, with Chris Braswell to his left, it allowed him to shift out wider and got a head start against the tackle, which was really, it was really unheard of for a tackle to be able to move laterally that fast to catch up with Will Anderson. He just couldn't do it. They weren't able to chip him. They weren't able to cut block him because he was so far out and he got such a head start. So that really increased. I look for them to use this cheetah package going forward, and for Will Anderson to even have more sacks in this game. He passed Jonathan Allen as a second in sack leaders. Don't think he'll ever get to Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas was just in a league all of his own, in a zone all of his own, when he had the most sacks ever recorded in Alabama. But Will Anderson Jr. is going to be able to entrench himself firmly in the second place sacks of all time at the University of Alabama. So my offensive players of the game are Bryce Young and Ja'Cory Brooks, and my defensive players of the game are Henry To'oTo'o and Will Anderson Jr. Well, everyone, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report here in our third and final segment today. Let me just remind you that Lance and I appreciate you tuning in to each and every podcast. We have, looks like almost 1,000 viewers each and every week who tune in to listen to us on our various platforms. You can find us at Twitter at DavidCott50. You can find us at DC Capstone Report Facebook page, DCCapstoneReport.com. And you can check out Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some great Alabama photos. Well, this week we move on to the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas had a stumble last week against Texas A&M, and they tumbled out of the top 10. They were a top 10 team, which would have been a great top 10 matchup against undefeated teams. But they had stumbled a little bit and lost their game against Texas A&M. They had every chance to win. But they did not hit on all cylinders and had some moments where they were suspect in decisions they made, which caused some turnovers, caused some fumbles, and also some penalties. But overall, Arkansas has a very, very solid team. On offense, I think it starts with their quarterback. I think the quarterback is tall. He's big. He can run the ball. He can extend plays with his legs. He throws the ball very well across the middle. And I think this is going to be one of the best quarterbacks that we've faced so far this year. He's very athletic, so he has the ability to extend the plays on third down. When the play breaks down, you think you got everything covered, he can get out in open space and really pick up some yards. He also can run the ball on run-pass option plays. And after him, I think their running back is really well, does a good job of running the ball. And I think really they run the ball with their big line to open up play-action passing downfield to hit a big shot. So look for Arkansas to come into this game and try to establish the run against Alabama. On defense, they have an Alabama transfer in Sanders that everyone is talking about. He's gone out to Arkansas, really changed his role, moved him to a sort of an inside linebacker role. He will wear number 42. He was an outside linebacker here at Alabama. Drew Sanders is his name. Get to know it well. I think he'll look to try to show what he can do against his former team. He wanted to start, and instead of staying here, he moved to Arkansas in a transfer portal, and is starting there and has made the SEC Defensive Player of the Week already this year. He rushes the passer really well. He has a quick step, quick speed, good instinct. He covers really well out of the backfield. So I think a good matchup in this one will be look at Drew Sanders putting pressure on Bryce Young and also covering Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. I think if you might see him covering Cameron Latou sometimes across the middle or Jahmyr Gibbs. So if we can maybe find something in that matchup, you might see us go to Jahmyr Gibbs a lot more in this game than we did in the past game against Vanderbilt. So when Arkansas is got the ball, watch for their quarterback to really make a difference for them, and their running game to set up their passing game. And when they're on defense, look for Drew Sanders, and of course they have Bumper Poole, who is another one of my favorite names of SEC defenders, another linebacker, number 10. Along with Drew Sanders to try to stop this Alabama offense. Well, when Alabama has the ball, what do we need to do? We need to take advantage of what the other team gives us. This is my game plan for Arkansas. We're going on the road. We've already been on the road in a hostile environment against Texas. We come out of there with a victory, 1-point victory. Well, we've got to learn from our mistakes in that game. We can't let the getting our head about being on the road, the other team, other fans get in our head. That yes, they're going to be loud. Yes, they're going to be rowdy, and we need to make sure we go in there understanding that, and we need to play to the Bama standard against this Arkansas team, and don't let them stay in the game. And by that I mean that Bryce Young, we should put this game in Bryce Young's hands, and tell him to take what the defense gives you. I know it's often said we don't run the ball enough, but I think a lot of times we have running plays called that end up being passing plays because he changes those because of the coverage. I look for Arkansas to try to stop the run and make us put in passing situations and try to help more than us to make a mistake, put pressure on the quarterback. And what we have to do is take what the defense gives us. If it's short passes, take them. If it's long passes, take them. If it's running the ball, run the ball. But let Bryce Young handle this game on the road and put it in his hands to make those calls at the line of scrimmage. If we do that and we limit our mistakes on offense, and don't have any turnovers, and we run the ball when we can and we pass the ball when we can based on what the defense gives us, I think Alabama is going to come away with a great offensive plan for this game. On defense, we need to make sure that we don't let the quarterback beat us by using his leg to extend the plays. We need to make sure we get off the field on third down. We need to stop the run and put them in passing down so that we can establish our pass rush with our new cheetah package and really put pressure on their quarterback, make him throw the ball in tight windows and maybe get a turnover out of that. But how we do that, I think it's going to start up front in the defensive line. Jaheim Otis, Justin Aboigbe, DJ Dale. Who's the person going to come in and spell Byron Young if he can't go? Is it going to be Jamil Burrows? Is it going to be Tim Smith? Who will get in there and make a difference? That defensive line has got to go against that big offensive line and establish the line of scrimmage. We've got to win the line of scrimmage, and we're going to have to stop their running game, put them in passing downs. And if we can do that, I think it'll be a long day for the Arkansas offense. If we can stop that run and make them pass, and that we can rush that passer with this new package. I look for Will Anderson Jr. to have a big game rushing. The quarterback's a big guy. They're going to have to wrap up and get him on the turf. We can't be letting him run and scramble. We got to keep him in the pocket and put him down in the pocket. We can learn from the Texas A&M game. They did a good job defensively against him. And if we can learn from that game and we can really ramp up our defense, I look for Alabama to come away with a big victory over Arkansas. So this week I think Alabama goes on the road to the hostile environments against the Arkansas Razorbacks. They want to beat Alabama. Coming off a loss, they're stung right now, and they want to beat Alabama to get back that clout that they had in the top 10. But I think Alabama goes in there. Bryce Young calls a great game, takes what the defense gives him. We have some great big plays downfield, some chunk yardage, and I look for Jahmyr Gibbs to be the factor in this game in his matchup against the linebackers and the secondary from Arkansas to have a big game in this game. So Alabama comes away with a big victory, and I've got Alabama 42, Arkansas 17. Well, that's it this week for the DC Capstone Report. Thanks for all for tuning in. Look for a big victory, and we'll come back next week to report on that. Y'all have a great week, and roll tide.